Welcome to Museum Archipelago. I'm Ian Elsner. Museum Archipelago guides you through the rocky landscape of museums. Each episode is rarely longer than 15 minutes. So let's get started.
If you've been to a museum lately, any museum, big or small, you probably noticed ever more software-driven experiences. Interactive touchscreens, projections, buttons, videos, all controlled by software.
I've seen mostly all exhibitions have at least some kind of interaction or some kind of pieces of the exhibition that do require some kind of software to enable it.
This is Lucas Junqueira, a Brazilian museum professional and software developer.
Okay, my name is Lucas Junqueira. I've been working on this exhibition museum scene for quite some time now.
It's tempting to see the increase of software in museums as another example of software eating the world. This phrase, software eats the world, was coined by investor Marc Andreessen in a 2011 Wall Street Journal opinion piece. The idea isn't that software replaces everything. It's that software absorbs the value layer of company after company, industry after industry. In the software eats the world thesis, traditional music labels only exist to provide software companies like Apple Music and Spotify with content. The software, everything from how the app looks on your phone to what song is recommended next, sits higher on the value chain than the music itself. Even the network effects of which app your friends use matter more than what you listen to. Netflix, Salesforce, and the game Angry Birds are some examples Andreessen mentioned back in that 2011 essay, plus plenty of other companies I barely remember. But the core of the thesis, even if it's not explicitly mentioned, is the zero marginal cost nature of distributing software. Whatever the upfront cost of developing Angry Birds is, it doesn't actually matter, since the company can distribute it to every phone on the planet for $0. Once it exists, it can be copied endlessly, instantly, and globally, which is exactly what museums can't do. And this is where museums are different. Museums aren't infinitely scalable, and they aren't frictionless. You can't really download an exhibition in the same way that you can download a song. You have to show up. There's only one Mona Lisa. And that's why software in museums is immune from software eating the rest of the world. Yes, there's more software in museums than ever, but software rarely becomes the value layer. Museum software doesn't own the audience relationship, and it doesn't become the product like Spotify was able to do. Instead, it supports the product. As long as museums continue to control distribution, software remains infrastructure, a tool to help museums tell their stories. Lucas and I are both software developers, specializing in building exactly that infrastructure. One of Lucas's early projects was creating software to project images onto the facade of the Space of Knowledge Museum, which faces Liberty Square Plaza in the Brazilian town of Belo Horizonte.
We provided them a tool so they can make a projection. They do have a projection on the front wall of the museum. It's a very big projection, and it is right in front of a square here in my city that is very crowded all the time. So they wanted to use this to show something they are exhibiting right now. The museum is funded by a university, so they wanted to show some scientific evolutions. They want to use it like an information tool. They wanted to do that. And we provided them the software to use for these to produce the content to show on this big projection.
Almost always, the cost of these projects is front-loaded. Museums pay Lucas, or me, to create the software that projects images, and everybody is concerned about opening day. Lucas explains that this focus on new exhibitions is related to sponsorship funding.
We see that most of the museums had some requirements when they start a new exhibition. They usually have some kind of budget and some kind of funding to that. And that doesn't really happen when these institutions have to maintain their spaces. they can get some sponsors to new exhibitions, but they don't get so many sponsors when they are just keeping the museum open, right?
Right. And this is exactly what happened to the projection on the facade of the Space of Knowledge Museum. Long after Lucas finished building the software, and long after the project had successfully finished, the museum wanted to update the projection to show new content.
And it was these that brought me to the idea of creating a tool so the people on museum can use it without technical knowledge, because I felt they were needing to create some interactive content, but they needed to do it by themselves.
Lucas wanted to make software that acted like infrastructure.
I felt this need to create something that the museums and the institutions can use to both create the big interactions for the new exhibitions, but also something that they can use on day-by-day basis, because they don't have that sort of technical people or budget to fund this on day-by-day basis, right? And so I thought about creating something that they can use for both things. They can use it when something new is coming, and they can hire people to do it. They can hire technical people. They can hire developers to do it. But something that they can install like on computers, and with minimal knowledge they can use to solve day-by-day problems.
The result is TilBuci, a piece of software that Lucas developed on his own. It's a tool for helping build the software infrastructure a museum might need. The name TilBuci comes from Lucas's dog.
His name is Buci, and he keeps company for me. He is always where I am. When I'm working, he's close to me all the time. So when I had to think about that name for a software, I thought, that would be perfect. Let's name it after him.
TilBuci, which you can download for free on any OS platform you want, is an impressive suite capable of doing anything from slideshows, interactive menus with animation, dialogue systems, survey kiosks, and quiz games.
It started growing slowly. With the functions, it started growing slowly because, of course, it's a free software and it's not funded by anyone. Well, it's funded by my own work, right? So I started creating like this. So when someone hired me to develop, for example, a kiosk, and I had to build a specific function, instead of creating it somewhere else, I used it to create the code and incorporate it on the base software. And so the basis of TilBuci started there. It started growing from the day-by-day work of myself.
But the development wasn't without setbacks. Lucas's early code was written to be distributed on Flash. Flash Player was, for a long time, an easy way to make interactive media work on the web and in museums. It was a browser plugin developed and controlled by Adobe, and it allowed programmers and designers to build animations, video games, and interactive experiences that ran the same way almost everywhere. If you wanted something dynamic, visual, and easy to deploy, Flash was often the answer. Museums adopted Flash for the same reasons everyone else did. It lowered the barrier to making interactive content. But Flash was also a closed system. Museums didn't control it. So when Adobe decided to end support in 2020, thousands and thousands of interactives simply stopped working. Not because the exhibitions had changed, but because the supporting software wasn't allowed to run.
At that time, we called the apocalypse, our digital apocalypse, when we found the problem of the Flash player. And in about 2020, it was kind of dead because it heavily depended upon the Flash player.
I remember the Flash apocalypse too. That moment exposed something important. Even when software is just a tool, the kind of tool matters, especially when museums don't control it. And that was the problem Lucas was trying to solve in the first place. So Lucas switched course and made sure that his software was made with open source technologies.
I started thinking on ways to bring it back to life with something more open, some more open technologies. And that's when I started studying better the JavaScript and something like that. And then I could convert what we have done to what we have now.
While museums have so far avoided software eating them, that doesn't mean they're immune forever. It's not hard to imagine a company offering museums free interactive kiosks in exchange for visitor data, or a platform that hosts digital exhibitions and starts competing with the physical visit for attention. The moment a third party controls the interface between a museum and its audience, the museum becomes the content supplier, just like the labels became for Spotify. Tools like TilBuci show a different path forward. Instead of extracting value, they extend the life of museum systems by keeping them editable, local, and owned by the institution, long after us programmers leave. They allow institutions to adapt, update, and respond over time, even when budgets shrink and staff turn over. And this brings us back to the projection on the facade of the Space of Knowledge Museum. That projection opened in 2012. And because of TilBuci, it's still working today.
In this example, this projection, without the tool for them to create themselves, it would be closed sometime after we left there, or it was just will be used to show some static videos and so on. But with training them to create interactive content, we gave some life to this projection for a bigger time than it could have been without it.
This has been Museum Archipelago.
They never call it a museum. Jurassic Park has a visitor center, a tour, a gift shop, fossils on display. It's curated, it's interpretive, it's full of didactic signage and high-budget audio-visual material. It has a pulse visitor experience that begins with an introduction film. But nobody ever says museum. That's because museums are slow. They're dusty. They're institutions. Jurassic Park wants to be something faster, cleaner, cooler. A theme park, a show, a miracle. But Jurassic Park is a museum movie. The dinosaurs are exhibits, living dioramas, engineered to validate a particular vision of science and nature and human knowledge. The tour is scripted. The narrative is highly controlled. That is, until it isn't. The latest episode of our bonus podcast, Club Archipelago, is an hour and a half on 1994's Jurassic Park, in particular from a museum professional's perspective. It's a good one. Listen at jointhemuseum.club to join the club and support the show.
For a full transcript of this episode, as well as show notes and links, visit museumarchipelago.com. Thanks for listening. And next time, bring a friend.